1 Kings chapter 17. Just going straight in it today. Now Elijah, who was from Tishbe in Gilead, told King Ahab, "As surely as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, the God I serve, there will be no dew or rain during the next few years until I give the word." Then the Lord said to Elijah, "Go to the east and hide by the brook, near where it enters the Jordan River. Drink from the brook and eat what the ravens bring you, for I have commanded them to bring you food." So Elijah did as the Lord told him and camped beside the brook, east of the Jordan. Lord, I thank you for your message today, for the word you've given me to speak, and for everything we can learn from your scripture. I pray you would have your hand on the service and all of us this morning. In your name, amen. So, faith is something that all humans live by. It's one of those words that I have a frustrating time arguing with Google definitions over what the word actually means. It supposedly can be just synonymous with the term belief. Just you believe in something, you have faith in that object. It can, in a much more narrow sense, apply directly to religion. It is synonymous with a particular religious belief, at least in our society. The definition I almost like the best, because it sounds like it was written intentionally to be anti-religious, but actually kind of proves our point for us, is faith means believing in something you were told or something outside of your understanding, not because you have reasoned it out yourself and can prove that it's true, but because, in effect, you were told it was true. It sounds very post-truth, oh, you fools who believe in things besides what practical science can show us. But the thing is that faith is a necessary requirement for living as a human, on one level or another. At the most basic level, I have faith that I'm not going to die today, which is actually a surprising thing when you think about it, and the number of ways you could die between now and bedtime. Cheerful message this morning. But it's true. Every time you get in those goofy... It was bad enough like before the modern age, but we have now decided that it is normal to get in a metal container weighing a ton and drive at 80 miles an hour and have faith that people will obey laws and rules of the road and not crash into you. Which, I've been in downtown Reno and Sacramento. I don't particularly have that strong of faith in that particular. But I'm still going to do it, obviously. I'm still going to be driving home today because I have faith I'm going to make it. And that's something that is shared between all people. It's not just a Christian thing. I think atheists are just as confident in the fact that they're not going to drop dead today as the rest of us are. On a more personal level, we, generally speaking, have faith in our fellow man. Maybe not as much as we once did. But generally, when someone comes into the store, I have faith that they're not going to shoot up the place. A social contract, if you will, between people that forms society is basically one large statement of faith that I can live safely next to you and you won't break into my house at night and steal my stuff. On the most basic level, that's what faith is, believing in something that you can't necessarily prove. I really like this example because I think it legitimately confuses older people who have lived life. But I believe in New York City based on faith. I have never been there. I have never seen it. I cannot actually tell you for absolute certain that it is not just one giant lie made up by the patriarchy. I have plenty of first-hand accounts that I am inclined to believe, and I will admit that the world makes a whole lot more sense if New York City does exist. But technically speaking, I have not been there, and I have not observed it, and I have not touched it and discovered it by myself. So hopefully very quickly we can kind of see how important and believable faith is, because everybody not only lives their day-to-day life full of faith in one thing or another, but I honestly think everyone has faith in the more common sense of believing in something. I'll borrow some from Mark Lowry, which is a bad idea because he's much more clever and intelligent than I am, but frankly, one of the big reasons, not an atheist, I don't have the faith for it. I don't have the ability to go outside, to see people walking around, to see mountains, and the wind blow, and gravity working, and go, oh yeah, this was obviously just random chance. I quite frankly think atheism is probably the religion that has required the most faith in the history of mankind. Because everything about the way we live and the way we do things screams out for a clear and present and obvious direction from one source or another. There is simply no way in my mind that you can believe that the universe exists because it just does. That's like if you get home and the house is trashed and the kids tell you, oh well, this just happened. Uh-huh, sure it did. Things do not just happen. The universe just does not exist, and then suddenly it does. Everything about the natural world says that cause and effect is a thing that, exists. And a universe that runs off of cause and effect, logically speaking, cannot just spring into existence out of sheer random chance. There has to be something there. And frankly, if my choice is between untold eons ago, a magic space god created the universe, and untold billions of years ago, it just happened, I know which one I actually find more believable, ironically enough. But this is all a much more basic understanding of faith than what I think Christians are called to, and Christians by definition have. Because faith means a lot more than just believing in God. There is more to it than that. As Jesus himself says, demons believe in God. Congratulations. They're afraid of him. So typically speaking, they are closer to being Christians than a majority of humans. Because they've already got two of the steps down. They believe in him and they're afraid of him. They just don't do the whole, serve him thing. So, at least try to catch up with the demons. But being a Christian is more than that. Because having faith in someone is typically speaking more than just acknowledging that they exist. If I have faith in a governor, that generally does not mean that I believe in him as a rational concept that you can go up and touch. Because that should probably go without saying. There have been stories about particularly well-gifted con men creating candidates out of thin air and actually making it into the primaries before someone realized this person doesn't exist. But typically speaking, if I say I have faith in my brother, for example, that means I believe in him. I believe that he would come and pick me up at the airport at midnight if I needed him to. That he wouldn't lie and steal my car. That he wouldn't, run off with my wife or something. Faith is more than just believing that they exist. And so faith in God is much more than believing that he exists. Again, that's the baseline that every religion in history, except atheism, because it's lame, has managed to grasp that there is a God and you're not it. Everyone gets that. You have to have more than that to call yourself a Christian. It's what the word means after all, Christ follower. To have faith in him is to believe him and that what he says is actually true. To turn over to Matthew, which apparently is the only gospel I will ever preach from, chapter 17, verse 14. At the foot of the mountain, a large crowd was waiting for them. a man came and knelt before Jesus and said, "Lord, have mercy on my son. He has seizures and suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him." Then to skip down, afterward the disciples asked Jesus privately, "Why couldn't we cast out that demon?" "You don't have enough faith," Jesus told them. "I tell you the truth, if you had faith even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it would move. Nothing would be impossible." Alright, so Jesus is picking on us again. Because this is a pretty straight up claim that a vast majority of humans, even the apostles who lived, worked, and breathed with the Son of God, don't actually have as much faith as a mustard seed, which for the record is a very, very small seed. I mean, it'd be insulting enough if it was like a pumpkin or a sunflower seed. But no, he's going straight into mustard, straight into like a grain of pepper. There are examples throughout history. Again, the prophet from the beginning of this, Elijah, who prayed that it wouldn't rain, and it didn't rain for 3 years, and he almost died of thirst because there wasn't any water. Who would have thunk it? But this is remarkable to me. First and foremost, we're back to that whole, these kind of Christian attributes are like muscles. You have to exercise them and get them stronger. One of the other Gospels has Jesus tell the apostles that there are kinds of demons that can only come out through prayer and fasting. There are exercises in life that will improve all of these attributes. Not just patience, that's the obvious one. The more you practice patience, the better you are at it. Well, the more you practice faith, the better you are at it. The more you practice kindness, the better, etc., etc., etc. Faithfulness specifically, though, is, in my understanding at least, a belief that God is going to do what he says he will do, and that he is what he says he is. Sin, in many ways, can really be categorized as only having the one motive. There are, of course, a lot of different kinds of sins, and there are, of course, a million different motives for individual sins. You could kill someone because you want their property. You could kill someone because they just annoy you. You could kill someone because you're a serial killer. There's a wide variety of reasons to commit the same sin, but they all go back to the same thing: a lack of belief in God. Because presumably if you believed in God, and you believed that he was who he says he is, then you wouldn't risk his wrath striking down another one of his children. Presumably if you believed that he would take care of you, you wouldn't kill your neighbors so you can take their stuff, because you would believe that God would supply what you need. All sin ultimately comes down to that original sin of just not trusting God when he says, "Don't touch that one tree," literally one tree. No wonder he compares us to mustard seeds. It's interesting to me that it all boils down to just one basic tenet. Trust him. He's been around for a while, probably knows what he's talking about. But I won't make it sound like that's easy or anything. After all, in the beginning, God is the one who told Elijah to pray for the rain to stop in the first place. So Elijah had to trust God that he would take care of not only him, but the entire nation of Israel through a 3-year-long drought. And even more so in the New Testament, with Jesus and this demon-possessed boy, that you need faith to fight the forces of evil. But really, faith is one of the easier, I guess I can't really say that, but it's not that hard once you get over the first hurdle to exercise faith. It is, of course, incredibly difficult to get through life, but I have seen it not become easier for those who have lived long Christian lives. Often they are in more difficult carnal situations than the rest of us put together. But I have seen plenty of examples of their attitude and their spirit not even being slowed down by tragedies that would floor us younger folk, as it were. Faith is something that grows and flourishes the more you believe in it. Because that's what it is. Faith means belief. So, as a big old paradox, to have faith, typically speaking, you need to believe that you have faith. It kind of cause and effect, and it goes around in a circle. It's a lot, actually, to go back to the con man thing, it's a lot like being a con man. It is, though. The number one step to getting away with things is to act like you are not guilty. To act like you are supposed to be in that back room that you're really not. To act like you know what you're talking about. On a more day-to-day, less, illegal level. The best way to get someone interested in something you are interested in is to be confident in it. If you want someone to read a book you like, you probably shouldn't go, oh, well, the last half isn't that good. But no. I really like this book. You should read this book. Is a much better sales pitch. Vacuum cleaners, salesmen, don't show up at your door at all. That was the worst possible analogy I could have chosen. That stopped happening like 50 years ago. But when they did, presumably they did not come to your door, knock on it, you open it and go, hey, would you like to buy the second best vacuum cleaner available? You claim it's the first, even if it's not necessarily. You have to have that confidence, that air of believing what you're selling. And that's faith in a lot of ways. When you stand up here and say, I believe in God, it should sound like, I believe in God, not, I believe in God. We're not agnostics after all. And when you have that faith, when you have that shield, to go back to our armor of God, Ephesians something or another, I have a bookmarked because I cheated. Alright. In addition to all of these, hold up the shield of faith to stop the fiery arrows of the devil. That is your protection, state sanctioned as it was, against everything that life throws at you, is faith, is believing in God. This can perhaps in our culture be taken a bit too far. I suppose I'm not endorsing snake handlers this morning after all. Though they're not entirely wrong. The Bible does make abundantly clear that if we believe we will not be harmed, generally speaking, we will not be harmed, unless His kingdom can be greater served. But it does come down to your motivation, your intent. I think it's very different to be a missionary trekking through the jungle to find an unreached group of people and to get attacked by a poisonous snake there and to be protected from its venom. I find that to be a very different circumstance and attitude from, look at me, I am so great and have so much faith that I can handle this snake without being hurt. Those are two fundamentally different attitudes and two fundamentally different faiths. One is faith in God to protect you. The other is faith in your own faith, that you have built it up so much that you can be saved from snakes. One is fundamentally following Him, one is fundamentally following yourself. I hope that clarifies for those, and myself included, that sometimes wonders, hey, why can't I just move mountains when it's convenient? My county head, if I actually lived in Lyon County, would be on the other side of that mountain range. It'd be much quicker to just remove it so you could drive back and forth to Erington quicker. I live in Story County though, so that's actually kind of entirely irrelevant. But that is really kind of the long and short of it on faith. I think rather uniquely, I actually covered all my notes for once. But that is another attribute to be found in Christian lives. And I don't just mean the vertical one. That is obviously very important to demonstrate to people that you have. I am rather fond of the fact that our motto, or at least what we have printed on our coins, is "In God We Trust." I think that is a very perhaps not terribly relevant anymore, but when this goofy little nation started out and was fighting the biggest empire the world has, far older, richer, and more powerful than itself, including itself, civil wars, they're great, but for the first 100+ years of American history, I think a whole lot of our success comes down to that motto of "In God We Trust," to deliver us and enable us to do things we would not otherwise be able to do. I suppose rather tragically, they should probably now say "In Apple and our aircraft carriers we trust," but that's the cycle of human history. So that vertical faith is important, but what I have seen demonstrated in Christian lives almost as much is the horizontal faith. A belief in the good of people. A belief in one another as fellow children of God. That we will do good by people. That you can trust. That you can treat other people with kindness and decency and expect the same in return. And on that odd day where you meet that truly evil people, that vertical faith will bail you out. So, all of that being said, do we have any particular needs or requests before we dismiss this morning? Looking around, it seems like coffee would appear to be at the top of the list. All right then, if we're all good, if Sister Jane would dismiss us.
Thank you, Lord, for bringing us here safely. Thank you for the good message. We pray that you bless the food and nourish it to our bodies and bring us back at the point of time. Amen.